All right, so now back to our normally scheduled programming here on Tuesday night. If you have any questions or comments or things you want to talk about, tell Brian and I what exam you're taking so that we can, be more informed as we try and do that. I am teaching some series classes for Kaplan. I'm just finishing up. If you're joining me from the 66 class today, thank you for joining us. That I need to update the banner. That class is done. But in April, we're doing the SIE. I'm doing a Series 7. You want to join us for that? And Brian has always been kind enough. I always say your best free supplement to your paid study materials is my YouTube channel. And I highly recommend a Kaplan QBank, if not a Kaplan, as your primary study tool. And then Brian's been kind enough to give our viewers a 20% discount for his paid supplement, and that is Guru 20. All right, so let's see what we got going on in our normal programming here. Boom, 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 boom. Brian, I passed my 66 today. Thanks for all your content and time. Yeah, you've been having people chat. Yeah, Brian, in bad social media. I've been seeing a lot of those thank God for Brian posts on Reddit and Facebook and other places. Marcel, hey, Ken Erlian, I will tell Mom you say hi. And like I say, when you come out, I'm taking you to the I know you tell me this a gazillion times, Brian. What's the new thing called? Steakhouse?
William B's.
William B's is the place, Marcel. You took Mom and I, and they've rebranded that. Brian says it's excellent. Nico, I'm so with you on Can I get Kaplan. I was telling the class this morning, they had some suggestions. And I said, I'm not so sure I want to make suggestions just before I put Doug on. And, I have some negative vibes going. But I am certainly with you, Nico. But Kaplan knows that if they gave me, for example, permission to delete questions, which in the past I've asked for, they know that QBank would go from like 3,600 to probably, 3,000. I'm joking. The other thing that I'm not allowed to do, Nico, when I'm teaching Kaplan classes, I'm allowed to add to the slides, but I'm not allowed to delete the slides. And they know for the same reason. They know that slide deck would quickly go down to a more manageable. 65 test taker a year for substantial prepayment of fees. It's more than 500 in 6 months or more. That's true. Or 500 or more. It's more than 500. I'm not sure. 500 or more. Well, more than 500. It's more than 500. Brian, do you have that question? I think where somebody gets it wrong if they say 500. Is that one of your, I think, practice questions?
I don't think it is. And I'm sitting here trying to think.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, Sam, it's more than 500. Because maybe it's not Brian. I've seen practice questions where you get marked wrong if you say 500 instead of more than 500. I don't think it's a real issue on the real test. Do you, Brian?
It might be.
Well, the point is, what does that trigger? And it triggers the disclosure of a balance sheet, right?
That's right. There is that federal law too, but I don't know.
Yeah. Also, Brian just enrolled in your course, hit a wall on simulated exams. Well, hey, if you're getting a wall at 80, 85, Sam, listen, be gentle on yourself. I mean,
wow.
If I was going to hit a wall, that's a good wall to hit. That
I know a lot of people would like to see that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Series 65 taking next Wednesday. Scored a 7 on Brian's final. You're in great shape. I told you, I think Brian's practice files have the best correlation to the actual exam. And the good news, Michelle, you said next Wednesday. So I would imagine you're just not going to stop and be satisfied with a 70 or so. I imagine you're going to continue to work. And I think you're going to find those points. I think the third try is going to be your winning thing. You're going to make your mark. You're going to pass 2 tests. You're 65 and a test of your resiliency. People who, I can't tell you how many successful people in our business have had the challenge, the misfortune of not getting the test on the first or second try. And it speaks to, when you do get it done, you're going to feel real good, but also speaks to your stick-to-itiveness in the business. So I like it. I think you're right where you need to be. Benita, I don't understand the answer on QID 139. Let me write that down. Maybe afterwards I'll try and bring it up at the end of the live stream, because I'm afraid I might accidentally kill it if I try and go too fancy here. But if we don't get to that, Benita, I will certainly do it on the channel for you. 1392623, Series 6. Can you please go over exempt advisor and investment counsel for 66? I'm not quite sure how you want us to do that in what kind of fashion. Um, I'm not sure what you mean by exempt advisor. You're not going to get tested. I think you need to know when you do need to be registered. Right? What do you think, Brian? You got something for us?
I have just recently heard this show up. That term, which is a little funky. I don't think you see quite that verbiage anywhere else. An exempt reporting advisor. I think that's essentially the same thing what you're asking, an exempt advisor. It's the, I don't know if you've seen my material, but on my little T, I have exempt advisors. Those are the private advisors, foreign advisors, venture capital advisors. Right. But the only thing I've seen on the test is, what do they file with the SEC? Still a Form ADV. That's basically.
How about the Form 13F?
That's.
You think it has anything to do with it? No, for venture capital. Okay.
I know.
Okay. All right. How accurate are past perfect practice files, Luis? Let me put it this way: they're not accurate, but they're not accurate in a good way. I guess I'll be kind and say they're not accurate in a good way. What I mean by that is you could add points to past perfect because they really go down a lot of rabbit holes. Brian's suggesting 8 to 10. I think that's a fair thing. So I would think if you're getting a 70, we usually say mid 70s, but if you're getting mid 70s on past perfect, I think you're right where you need to be. So
it's tough. Those are tough.
Yeah, I don't recommend. I think, listen, too much is better than enough. But I would not recommend Past Perfect as a primary study material. I know a lot of employers provide it to their reps, but that's why I wouldn't recommend it because it really does, over complicate things, right? So they are certainly not distilling, as Brian likes to say he does, distilling mashed potatoes into premium vodka. They are.
There you go.
They are potatoes all over the place.
If I may tell a very quick story. Yeah. It's getting close to April 15th, so I'm trying to squeeze in my IRA contribution. Right. So I went down to the local Charles Schwab office. Right. One of the gentlemen had just passed his SIE, and of course I'm asking him, did he use TestGeek? Does he know TestGeek? So what was your primary publisher? And he said Past Perfect. He said, man, I bet you there wasn't 1% of that material that showed up on the SIE.
Yeah. So
it's so deep.
It's tough because it ends up that, listen, the vast majority of people, Luis, do pass with Past Perfect, but every once in a while there's somebody who gets stuck in the Past Perfect mud and they just get stuck and they can't matriculate down the field into scoring position, so.
Boy, great analogy, man. I love that. Stuck in the mud of Past Perfect. I love it.
Welcome, Ivy. Ivy's one of our regulars. Welcome, Ivy. On the 66, there were quite a few state questions. Wow, that's surprising. And present value questions. There you go. So money bags, did you pass or did you miss your mark? I'm trying to remember. Did you tell us whether you passed?
I think they passed, yeah.
Well, then, hey.
There you go.
Kudos, investment advisor. So I always joke, I don't know why you would not want to trust Brian and I about what's on your exam, but when we have successful test takers in the house, you might want to ask them what their income. Now, remember, every draw is a little different.
Yeah, I use that time value of money formula in my YouTube video.
Yeah, Brian has a great value, a great thing on that. I have one I did. I'm continuing to build this little lecture thing I'm doing. And Brian has one, and I have one where I use the rule of 72 to talk about present value, future value, internal rate of return. And, I'm getting that pretty, I'm almost looking for the opportunity when I have a coaching call to say, hey, let me continue to build on that thing. So,
yeah, I've got a couple thousand views on that video.
That's great. That's great. What do you need to know about the Sharpe ratio, Madison? So here we go. Madison, you tell Brian and I, you're going to give Brian $1 million. You're going to give Dean $1 million. You're going to have a beauty contest. Whoever has the most money for you at the end of the year wins and gets your entire portfolio of $10 million. And so Brian is foolish enough to send me the portfolio that he has designed, and it's a tie. Both Brian and I have the same return for you. And then you say, well, gee, I don't know how to decide the tie. Well, I go, it's not a tie. And you say, well, what do you mean? Brian has $1 million too, and you got $1 million too. I say, Madison, my Sharpe ratio is higher. That means I got the same return as Brian, but I took less risk. I got more reward per risk unit. So I declare myself, Madison, the winner. The only test question about the Sharpe ratio is just that. The higher the Sharpe ratio, the better the portfolio in terms of its return versus its risk. Would you add anything to that, Brian?
You know, the only thing I've really gotten from this particular question on the test is that it's like 2.5 paragraphs long. It's not a calculation question.
Oh, no.
Absolutely not. No.
No, it's not a calculation.
No. And however, again, there are many questions on both the 65 and the 66 where they ask you to regurgitate, right, the important factors that go into it. Risk-free return is part of it. You basically just compare that to the actual return divided by the standard deviation. That tells you how much volatility, just like Dean said, how much volatility do you have to take on to get that type of return?
Yeah.
So you might have to recognize the formula or components within it. But other than that, remember, higher Sharpe ratio, the better.
Yeah, and Madison, I would tell you in general, that's most of the math on this 65 or 66 is mostly inputs and outputs. Are you going to have to do some math? Yes. But I think it's a lot less than people think. I mean, whether you love math or hate math, you know, I routinely get, Brian, 3-4 calculator questions. Yeah. So I think people get into that analytical method, say, oh my God, I'm going to have to get a CFA to pass the 65. And it's so not true. Taking 66 this Saturday. All right. Salem, Oregon. You're up in Brian's neck of the woods.
I'll be down in Eugene.
Just so you know, I'll teach you a trick that Brian taught me. You know, Brian is kind of a jet setter. He's got a place in the Northwest. He's got a place in Las Vegas. And I could never figure out where he was at based on his whiteboard. And so he told me, Dean, look at the trim on my whiteboard. If it's wood, think timber, think Northwest. Exactly. And if it's glitzy and silvery, think Las Vegas. So now I know where Brian is at when he's making his videos or joining us. Yeah. Custody. What counts as custody? It counts as custody. If I can draw funds from your account, it certainly does, right? If I can go into your brokerage account and take money, Madison, that's custody.
I think that's one of the answer choices on the test.
There you go. It's custody. So Brian's saying he thinks this is just an aim and shoot point and click question. Does the ability to withdraw fees from a client account constitute which of the following?
That's right.
Custody. Do you think, Brian, that the 10 and 35 grand would be a part of that or not?
No, I don't believe so. It's just which of the following constitutes custody. Okay. And it's withdrawing funds to pay for fees.
Yeah, I can present that. Taking the 66, Jennifer, thanks for joining us. Yes, we have a good class going on. So, yeah, we're on Tuesday. Tomorrow is TGIW for me. Thank God it's Wednesday. Wednesday is my Friday, so I am looking forward to it. I saw your email, and I think 2 exams a day is too much. I think 1 exam a day is what I keep you at because you don't want to wear yourself out. What do you think, Brian? 1 or 2?
1 is evaluate, then remediate. That's enough for 1 day.
You're not trying, Jennifer, to stack practice exams on top of each other. What you're trying to do is get a mark, remediate, and try and get a better mark. So we're not doing practice tests hopefully we'll learn stuff, but it's really about seeing where we're at in relationship to passing. We're trying to develop through practice tests, getting marks that tell us what is our margin of safety when we go take the actual test. What I love to be able to say, Brian, is, yeah, you just need to stick the landing. You're right where you need to do, rinse and repeat. Or, hey, we don't know, we're still seat back, nose up. We still got some work to do. So I think 2 is too much. I recommend 1 and then the proper level of remediation because it's just not taking that. Once you miss them, right, you're going to go back to your Kaplan thing or whatever you're using and go to your wrong answers and say, okay, well, do I have to, remediate? As Brian and I said, we love Kaplan. I'm not as familiar. I've been backstage with STC materials and Past Perfect. I'm more familiar with Kaplan. So that might be part of why I'm prejudicial. But I think the Kaplan performance tracker is wonderful in helping you isolate the areas and more so than when I've been backstage. Now, that might be because I don't know how to navigate backstage at STC or Past Perfect or whatever the case may be.
That performance tracker is your best friend.
Can you explain entanglement and adoption content? Well, entanglement is usually about social media. And what are your policies about linking to third-party sites? And the idea is you have a responsibility to make sure that if you're allowing reps to link to third-party sites, that you know what those sites are. What do you think, Brian? Have you had anybody have any questions?
I haven't a clue. When they put that, I first time.
I think that's more of a Kaplan thing than it is a actual test thing. This idea of entanglement and adoption as it relates to social media. So, Brian's always extremely focused on, is it on the test? And if not, who cares? You did pass. All right. Woohoo!
Money bags.
I like that.
That's what I call my
these for investment advisors when acting as a BD. It's written disclosure, and then it's consent if we're doing a customer cross or acting as a principal as an investment advisor. So those are kind of separate issues. If we're using an affiliated broker-dealer, it's written disclosure that we are using an affiliated broker-dealer. And then the consent is about trades, not the relationship. It's about particular trades, whereas an investment advisory firm, a fiduciary, I'm either doing dual agency crosses or doing principal transactions. That's consent. And it's actually, when we open the account, we tell you that if we have the chance to internalize order flow and do customer crosses, we're going to do so. We tell you at the opening of your account. And when that situation arises, then we remind you again of this dual agency concept. And we need your consent. And that would be by settlement. So they say on the test, they say by completion of the trade. And trades are completed on settlement. Do you have a group class coming up that I can sign up for, Ivy? Well, Brian and I, we've kind of not done any group classes, and I've been thinking about getting some up on the schedule. Maybe I'll get with Brian, and maybe we can come up. Boy, he did one for us. It's very popular. I think he has it on his site too. Definitions, registrations of persons. And boy, that was really a great class. A lot of people have got a lot of value at it as a replay. So let me go backstage, Ivy. I think you're taking 65, 66. And I'll get with Brian and see if he wants to do one, or if I want to do something. Maybe I'll do one and he'll do one. We'll see what we can do. Maybe we can come up with another target-rich environment, Brian, like that one. Right. Yeah, that was a good one. Ryan, you two helped me pass my 7. Think about 24. How difficult is 24? It is a slog, Ryan. It is a slog. It's 150 questions. So I would recommend it, but I think it's challenging. I'm not going to say that's a slam dunk or layup. It is not. It also depends, Ryan, on your background. If you have been trading in that environment, a bid and ask, or you've been doing banking, that would be extremely helpful. I don't know how much residual value or base you still have from your 7 over a year ago, but what I would recommend, Ryan, is go to either my 24 playlist on the channel, Ryan, and maybe pick a video in the front part of the playlist, hit play and see if it sounds like a foreign language or not. And that would give you a good idea of perhaps how difficult you might think it is. I have videos on the 24 for market making, for banking, for locked and cross markets. So maybe cherry pick a couple of those and see how you feel. Past the 65 a few weeks ago. All 4 tests are done. So I imagine that what you mean by that is SIE 663, 65. So wow, kudos. They used Brian's Teskey courses for all of those. He bought all 4. Wow, man. And isn't that sad that now no more money from Grant? Do you think that's a great way to do it, though? Test the first time. Grant, as you know, Brian is the first to tell you. I had somebody in social media, Brian. Sometimes I'm doing battle on your behalf, but the guy was, I bought the 24 class. I said, listen, if you have buyer's remorse, good news. Brian is more than happy to talk to you, or I don't think he's going to try and close you. I think he's going to say, listen, if you're having buyer's remorse, just ask for a refund. But in this case, the guy was, I think, Brian, the impression I got was he was using you as not a paid supplement, but as his primary study thing.
Standalone.
Yeah. And I said, listen, Brian has told you that's not what his courses are about. They're, paid supplements to fill in the gaps, plug the holes, and, let you know what's on the test. And so, Grant, kudos. I think if you have the resources, I think when it comes to passing tests in general, FINRA and NASAA exams, it is not a time to be frugal, and it's not a time to be monogamous. And what I mean by it's not time to be frugal, I understand some people don't have the resources. But if you have the resources to get supplements, paid supplements, or get a Kaplan Q bank, why not? Right? Why not? And then that's what I mean by not being monogamous. You don't want to get too many voices in your head, but you want to have more than one voice to confirm test issues. Like, oh, Dean says this is on the test. Brian says this is on the test. Kaplan has a practice question, confirmation that that's certainly the thing. So I would just encourage those of you. I don't know, Brian. I sometimes feel like I should have a scholarship. I get it the other day. I got a guy who had some weird questions. I'm like, who is your test prep vendor? And where are these questions coming from? And what even exam are you taking that would have these questions? And he said, oh, I just got something free on the internet. And I said, well, listen, that ain't going to work. You need to, well, except for my exception being my YouTube channel.
But as you said, you and I are doing this because we know we need to distill, and you and I are needed, necessary supplements to those textbooks and those practice questions. Yeah. That's why we've been doing this for 30 years.
Right. So, Nico is reaching out to Ivy. Ivy, you want to do a group session? If you do group sessions, I'm more than happy to join you. Listen, I'm not going to run them. I'm not going to give you free tutoring. But if you would have a group and you would like me to pop in as a guest speaker and help you with any content, I'm more than happy to do that as well. So, Nico, Ivy saying, do you want to do something as a group? Would you? There you go. Currently working through Brian's fantastic 65 videos, man.
Ooh, wow.
Hey, what about me? I also have the 24 at the end of the year. Is there any overlap with 65? No. I'm sorry. I mean, no.
7, yes.
7, yes. 24, no. Should you jump in the 24? I think, yeah. I think I don't know where you're at, but I think once you're in the registration mode, the test taking mode, I think you should run the table. If you think you're going to have to do another test, you may as well, step up, show some initiative, and say, I want to do it now. So that's not so much because we just told you there's no overlap, but if you're knocking out these testing victories, you establish a certain rhythm that helps you onto your next exam. Right. And so if you can keep that rhythm going, I'm a strong believer in doing it. Yeah. 66. Yeah, I think that was it. 7 tomorrow, Amato. I love Amato. I told you Amato is my favorite person in this regard, Brian. When he shows up, we do free live overtime sessions with a whiteboard. I think there's one scheduled for next Tuesday. If you're interested in that, you go to deantenneytutoring.setmore.com. And we also do free office hours. And Amato never comes with a ghost question. A ghost question, Brian, is when students say, Dean, somewhere in the materials, there's a question that goes something like. Yeah. I'm like, well, gee, that's it. Amato shows up, hey, QID 153465. Bam. That's not a ghost. That's a question we can actually kill. Based on the interactions I've had with you, Amato, I'd be awful surprised if you don't make your mark tomorrow. So get a good night's rest. My biggest advice would be be confident in the execution of your study plan. I'm familiar enough with your study plan that I think you should be confident in that. Be confident in yourself. And then most importantly, be confident in your answers tomorrow. Don't be changing answers. I'm going to steal one of Brian's famous lines. What is it? I'll let you do it. You take the
test. Don't let the test take you.
Yeah, right. So go down there aggressive. Oh my goodness. This is a long one. I'm taking the 65 next Wednesday. I have a lot to study yet. Thank you for your help. You're welcome. Does an investment advisor representative and a federal investment advisor representative need to register if they give advice only on government securities or municipal bonds? Well, if you're saying it's a federally investment advisor, that means they're registered. So, we wouldn't say this is a federally covered investment advisor if they were not already registered. And the investment advisor rep means they're already registered. I don't think there's any test questions on that. If my advice is solely on government securities, I don't believe I have to register, Brian. What's your thought on that
one? One is federal and the other one is not. Or one is state and the other one is not. But that's usually in regards to the IA, not the IA.
Yeah, not the investment advisor rep, right? Yeah. Taxation on mutual funds. Well, I'll link in our video description to a lecture I have on mutual funds. but quickly highlighting some of the questions on taxation on mutual funds. You definitely need to know that in a dividend reinvestment program, if you're telling the mutual fund to take your dividends and capital gains and reinvest them, that is a taxable event. You owe taxes on that. And one of the disadvantages to mutual funds, you give up tax control of your investments. You don't decide when to realize a capital gains distribution, the fund manager does. Your cost basis in the mutual fund is the public offering price you paid. Your sales proceeds are the NAV at redemption. And then when the manager sells the securities, whether it's short term or long term, is based on how long the manager has held the portfolio, the mutual fund has held that security. Quick overview, you definitely should know DI 90, that a mutual fund must pass through at least 90% of its net investment income. Do you think there's anything else, Brian? Did I miss any big ones there?
For mutual funds?
Yeah.
For taxation, no. We're concerned with our different classes, A, B, and C.
Yeah, well, that's not about taxes, but A shares are for
Right.
long-term time horizon, large amount to invest. B shares are for a long-term time horizon, a smaller amount to invest. And C shares are not for the long term, is basically.
As Mr. LinkedIn user gets further along in his process, some of these questions will start to shrink a little bit.
Yeah.
We'll start to focus in a little bit more on particular items rather than large items.
Yeah, I'm with you. 10Q is the quarterly report. You should definitely know 310Qs. This is reporting, business information. 10K is the annual report. It's audited. Do I recommend memorizing any formulas? Well, you need to do a total return for a yield. So, there's some stuff there.
Yeah.
But thanks for joining us from LinkedIn. We broadcast to Facebook, LinkedIn, X, and YouTube. Our favorite platform is YouTube, certainly. But I always am excited to see people joining us from LinkedIn and from Facebook. So it is, Brian. I believe I picked the answer, but I always like to make sure resting for the testing, retesting for the second time, April 2nd. All right.
It is.
Wishing us luck at Nico. All right. Wishing you luck. Yeah, I would be prepared to do total return. I linked to that as a video. I'll link again in the video description. So when we have questions that are like mutual funds or things like that, on the replay of the live stream, I link in the video description to any videos, and I will link to a video where I show you how to do total return. I think you asked me this in the channel, and you said, do I have to do this? And I think my answer was then, and my answer is now, maybe it's another test taker, is yes. And then I, said there's a video for it. So you also purchased Ryan's course. All right. Absolutely wonderful. I haven't, to be honest with you, I don't think I've ever seen a bad review, Brian. Maybe you have them, but I haven't seen one. Past the 7 today. Woohoo! Margin videos. Yeah, I think my margin videos are sufficient. Watch my margin and go test. I wouldn't do, that's a rabbit hole, people. There's two areas where, I may be going too far here. I'll see if Brian thinks it's too far. Back in the day, the manuals used to be in a loose leaf binder.
Yes.
That rings, and you could open the rings and take out, various pages. And, that's not true anymore because now they have the paste where they're bounded. But, I wouldn't feel bad, Mr. 529 CP, if you went to your license exam manual and ripped out all the pages about partnerships and all the pages about margin, because most of the vendors, I think, go completely overkill on margin and partnerships. There's all kinds of test prep practice questions from all vendors that you're never going to see on the exam. Good news, you're past that. I'd be interested to know, what is your next testing victory? Are you going from your 7 testing victory to a 63? Or are you going from a 7 to a 66? If I was a provider, I would cut out the complicated math. I'm with you. You're preaching to the choir, and emphasize suitability rules and violations. I totally.
That's exactly right. I agree 100%.
Totally concur.
Glad you enjoyed
I like it. Nico, we got this out. Listen, let me know if you'd like to do Kaplan questions through Zoom. Right on. Listen, I would definitely take Nico. Nico and I did a shared practice screen final, and boy, he was a killer on this thing. And if it's helpful, I think, to be able to articulate. Sometimes you got to be careful who you are going to be articulating with, because they might confuse you. But I don't think you'll have that problem if you want to share a screen with Nico. For the 66, what do I need to know about tax-exempt interest on private purpose? Well, Jennifer, you need to know it's not a suitable recommendation for a client who is subject to the AMT. It's a binary suitability question. I say, Brian, are you subject to the AMT?
Yes.
There you go. And if he says yes, then I don't recommend industrial development revenue bonds, which are private purpose bonds. Exactly. I don't recommend public purpose non-essential, which are stadium bonds. Period. Yep. Full stop. That's all there is to it.
That's it.
Okay. Thanks. Keep me posted. I watched that video. Very helpful. There you go. Thank you both for all you do for the community. That's what we're all about. You know, when I started the channel, you know, since the pandemic, it's harder because, you know, I know about Brian's experience, but I used to be like a corporate campus kind of trainer guy where I'd show up and there'd be 40 people and, you know, we'd be spending the week together and we'd go have lunch. You know, somebody's having a bad day. Maybe we buck them up with an adult beverage, and most people weren't doing this on their own. But nowadays, I don't even know if there's some people don't go to the corporate campuses, you know, it's empty buildings and you're out there on your own. So I always say, even if you don't have a question, we're here primarily to help the community with content. But even if you know, just looking for, you know, fun and fellowship, you know, make Tuesday nights part of your, you know, your study plan, you know, because I think it's kind of uplifting to talk to victorious test takers. And, you know, not always is the question about your particular exam, but Ivy, I just really do think that it's all about community, There you go. So, Nico, it looks like you got some takers. Which test are you guys studying for? She'd like to be a part of the group. 66 in 2 weeks, and then on to the 7. I think Madison, Nico they are doing the 66. They are doing the 66. If for some reason, I know you guys are probably more competent than I am on these things, but if you need me to facilitate hooking you guys together, feel free to send me an email, and I'll assume if I get an email from anybody who wants to join Nico on shared screens, that I have both Nico's permission, your permission to forward that email. So that's deantheseries7guru@gmail.com. And if you don't meet me, that's fine too. I won't take it personal. Which test are you taking? Boom. There you go. By the way, Nico, you guys, I'd be interested. I'm not a big fan of Facebook. And, you know, somebody said, oh, I don't think you don't like Facebook. I said, I don't, you know, but I said, what are you doing here? I said, well, you know, if test takers need help and they're on Facebook, well, then you'll find Superhero Series 7 Guru in Facebook. I'm joking. But I do have a Facebook Facebook page. And we have a Facebook group that I'm a little disappointed in. It looks like the moderators have just disappeared all of a sudden. And I have, Nico, a private, I've never, you know, opened it up. It's, you know, got me basically. But I have a Facebook group called FINRA and NASAA test takers. And I was thinking about, instead of these, you know, sites going dark, you know, maybe I'll, you know, as part of our community, I'll make this a poll. What say you guys? I mean, we already have enough going on YouTube and other places. I have Reddits, subreddits. But let me know your thoughts about opening up the Facebook private page, FINRA and NASAA test takers, for a sister community to the YouTube channel. And then the idea, Nico, is I could send you guys there, and you guys could, you know, hang out or do whatever. Let me know when you want to meet. There we go. Boom. There you go. There you go. I love it. Love it. Love it. 62 Ivy. Oh man, get Ivy in there. Get Ivy in there. Wow, things are cooking. I love it. I'm not so good at Teams. I feel sorry for my guys at Zoom. Zoom used to be a corporate kind of a thing, and I was using Zoom before that was you know, the pandemic, and it was much more a corporate kind of scenario. And I always feel sorry for people like Zoom, because then you got, you know, Microsoft coming to give away free what you charge people for. Google Meets. I'm thinking, oh, my poor Zoom guys, you know. I have a commercial Zoom account, and, you know, I think I can use Teams for free. I'm pretty sure. Past 763. Woohoo! No more sleep about options. Yeah.
No more dreaming about options.
Letdown when you.
I hear that a lot.
They pass, right? I took my 66 before the 7. Yeah, that's kind of odd. While I was employed, I was risky, but I never knew it. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, I like it. Currently, yeah, Jennifer's in my class, and she also has your 66 videos. I think I'll let you know. You can talk to the test geek himself here, Jennifer. I would use Brian's videos after you've done all your Kaplan stuff. You're finished with your class. You do a Kaplan practice test, and then what I would use Brian for is that kind of finishing, off your study effort. I don't know how many hours are your 66 videos, Brian?
Well, it's supposed to simulate a 2-day Series 66.
Okay, so 2 days. You basically need 2 days, Jennifer, to use Brian's as a top off. I would use as a top off towards the end of your study effort. So I wouldn't be using Brian to lay base. I'd be using Brian as his phrase, right, for distillation of all that stuff that you've already got up there, Brian. Your thoughts on when to use?
That's exactly right. If you're already through the textbook, you're going through Dean's class, right? Then use mine just to polish things, round off the rough edges. The one thing that I like to do, of course, is I always like to illustrate pictures. So it kind of helps with some of the hard concepts that people always have trouble with.
There you go.
Yep, it's a great top off. Yep.
Hey, Brian, any type of questions look for about IRR, internal rate of return, discounted cash flow, dividend discount model. You get the lottery analogy, but I have a tough time relaying it to the test world. Your thoughts, Brian?
Yes. Look at my YouTube video on IRR.
Nico, I will link to that in the video description. Brian has a
Oh
great
my
video.
goodness gracious!
It is testable. It is testable. So,
if you see the YouTube video, you'll get it.
Yeah. Like I gave another recommendation. Brian, this is so funny. Brian has a 24 video about buy-in and sell-outs for the 24. And I just think it's hilarious because, I'll recommend it to people who've taken the 24 and literally, it's life-changing. I'm like, oh my God. Part of me, Brian, wants to say, boy, you need to get a life if a Brian 24 video is, life-changing. I have a general question. I will rotate between scoring below a 70 on about 6 sections. Should I go back to the book and reread? So much content on rules and regs. I'm always a believer in rereading, right? So your thoughts, Brian?
Yeah, there's a lot of content. You need to distill it.
Yeah, there you go. No surprise. The answer to all your questions is buy the Test Geek paid supplement. Marcel, it looks like we got a couple of Facebook group is okay. So Kaplan briefly as well. You want to talk about Kaplan, Brian, with Nico?
Wow. Yeah. Risk versus reward. Done. It's not math.
It's not math for sure. It's the underpinnings of modern portfolio theory and this concept of alpha and beta.
Yeah.
Agree with it. Wow, gee, there you go. I guess, more Facebook people than I thought. What would be the best course of direction past the 65 to become a CFP? I don't know. CFP is again, definitely a retail thing to have as a professional designation. I don't know. I'm not trying to sound put offish, but I'm not really a career counselor, so I don't even know how to answer that question. I'm sure there's somebody at your firm would know the best course. I would take it out in chunks, as I always say, inch by inch. Your exams are cents. I would apply that to the CFP. I would take it out inch by inch. Inch by inch, CFP is a cents, yard by yard. With all the knowledge, getting time for the drawing here. We create a cohort and collaborate. We pass easily. I'm with you. I think, doing things as a group is easier. Take it once. There you go. That will be great. Yeah. Okay. Well, it looks like people are more into Facebook than I am. Is return on, I don't know what you mean, return on investment. ROCA, I don't even know what ROCA is. And if I don't know what it is, dark illusion, it's not testable. I don't know what return on A is. Maybe return on capital. I don't know. Return on equity. The answer to all your questions is no. You are not going to see any of those on your Series 7. So that reminds me of the person
what do you return on assets, maybe?
I don't know.
Not
a lot of balance sheet thing on 7 because we have a research department that does that.
Yeah.
Okay, so Brian, you missed last week, and I know you like to. There you go. I knew he was going to have his. Where is my giveaway tool?
Today's the first day of spring. Yay!
Okay, so it's going to be spring, all caps, Brian?
Is it cap sensitive? I don't care.
It is. So it's spring. Let me now bring that up here. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. Yeah, if you win the coaching call within 30 hour, you need to send me an email to collect. You will get a Zoom invitation. You can share the Zoom invite if you'd like, the coaching call. You can, invite, you can give it to somebody else. You can assign it to someone if you'd like. You can do whatever you want with it. Sometimes, if it's a good session and we're on a good topic, I'll record it and I'll share it with the channel. So you should know that I have, if you participate, I do have the ability to do that. I don't do it all the time. I think last 3 coaching calls, I just, talk to the people about what they wanted to talk about. But, if I fire up a whiteboard and I'm inspired, I go, ooh, let's share this with other folks. Anybody else want to participate in the drawing? Now is the time to do so. It is, you got to type it in exactly the way it shows up. All right. What do you think? Spin the wheel, Brian?
Spin the wheel.
All right, Luis. So send me an email, Dean the Series 7 Guru, gmail.com, and we will hook you up with your Zoom invite. All right. Well, thanks for joining us every Tuesday, 5 p.m. I really appreciate it. And remember, inch by inch, your exam's a cinch, yard by yard, your exam is hard. And Brian, you say?
Keep it simple. Stay with what you know. You take the test. Don't let the test take you.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next Tuesday. Bye-bye.